we have some games to talk about tonight. Now, anybody who doesn't want a spoiler on the World Series, you might want to hit one of the timestamps below. I know that this is just a hockey channel and I don't talk about baseball because people don't want to talk about baseball on the hockey channel mostly. But congratulations to the Washington Nationals on pulling off the inexplicable. And I feel bad for Zach Greinke. He had an amazing start, really pitching well. And then, all right, Greinke, out you go. Don't worry, the bullpen's got it. And then, yeah, the rest is history. Max Scherzer is a hero. The guy is a bona fide Hall of Famer. And, wow, the Nationals, the former Montreal Expos. I almost wore my Expos hat for this review, and I thought, no, Shannon, you can't change your format for this review. Even though you're kind of happy for the Expos, now the Nationals, that they won something. Which the Expos would have if not for a lockout, wiping out a World Series. But, moving along, people going, Shannon watches other sports? Yeah. Moving along. The first game of the night is Tampa against Corey Schneider. If you are a Devils fan and you came out of tonight going, our goaltending's fine, Corey Schneider will bounce back. Well, we had this discussion throughout the summer, and I said I hoped he would. Preseason exhibition games, he looked good, and I'm like, all right, maybe he is back. But his stats over the last few years have been lousy, and I know there's been injuries, I know there's been problems, but asking a guy to bounce back in his mid-30s from all those injuries is a task. Now, early in the game, Palmieri scores from Simmons at Hall at 1 minute and 10 seconds, and that was New Jersey scoring on its first shot. You're thinking, all right, New Jersey came out to play tonight, and against the Tampa Bay Lightning, a team that looks vulnerable, this could be big. And Tampa was vulnerable tonight. Tough start, too, for Luke Schenn on the goal. Luke Schenn misplayed it. It was, again, on the penalty kill, and I feel bad for Schenn because he's... I believe this was his first game as a member of the Tampa Bay Lightning tonight. And it's like, all right, well, we don't have Hedman, so Shannon, enjoy that. New Jersey got another power play. During the penalty kill, Coburn had a broken stick. I told you guys I'd keep track of this. But it didn't end up causing any problems. Simmons then collided with McElhinney, and the New Jersey Devils were running the goaltender a lot tonight. The Devils decided, hey, this McElhinney has really good numbers. Let's just run him over a bunch of times. And I didn't see any calls on it. Like, I guess they skirted the line, so it wasn't really goalie interference. Anyways, Palat scores from Shattenkirk and Point at 9 minutes and 28 seconds. Shortly after that, the Devils hit McElhinney again. And he was slow to get up from some of the hits he took tonight. The Bolts then got a late power play. Killorn scored from Shattenkirk and Johnson at 17:15. Very important that they get a power play goal to answer the other one. And McDonough took a tripping call towards the end of that period, but they escaped that period with a 2-1 lead, even though New Jersey outplayed them. Absolutely, the Devils outplayed them. Now, in the second period, the Devils got an early power play. They didn't score on it, but they had a lot of pressure in that second period. Jesper Bratt would score from Zaka and Hischier at 6 minutes and 5 seconds, tied it up. However, at 11:48, Braden Point scored from Johnson and Sergachev. Tampa Bay takes the lead. Not for long. Palmieri scored from Butcher and Hall at 12 minutes and 17 seconds. And I put on the board here, the Lightning can't maintain momentum. There were so many momentum swings against the Lightning, and all these moments where you expect them to start putting up goals, and that's Tampa Bay, so this is going to go great, and then it just didn't. Bratt then scored from Green and Hischier at 13:16, and what do you know? The New Jersey Devils with a lead on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Sergachev had a breakaway late in that period, which was denied, and yeah, it was 4-3 after 2 in favor of the New Jersey Devils. 1 minute, 13 seconds into that third period. Vatanen scores from Simmons and Green, and I put on the board here, like, Bolts are in trouble. They're down 5-3. But, who's in net for New Jersey? Ruda scored from Killorn at 2:45, and again, it was one of these goals right after a goal, and it's where you're looking for a big save. And while people can point to these goals and say, Tampa had a lot of shots from in front. You need a big save from your goaltender. You need it. The Devils haven't had it all season, and they still didn't get it. Joseph then scored from Sorelli at 7:45, and I put right up here, they're not getting saves. They're not getting saves at all. Tampa Bay then scored Palat from point at 16:03, and I put Subban stick break. They need a save. They desperately needed a save. Subban broke his stick while he was on the point, and Braden Point was the one that took that puck and took advantage. So Subban's coming back without a stick, and Palat ends up burying it. But you really need a save. You have to get one. Then the New Jersey Devils pulled the goaltender with about 2 minutes left, to which fans would be forgiven for thinking, oh, there's a goalie in there. And again, you have shots going through him, shots going over his shoulder. He's going down early. There were moments where I was thinking, if Tampa had shot that a couple seconds earlier, this could have been uglier. And yeah, when they pulled the goalie with 8 seconds left, it's Palmieri scoring from Butcher, 1952. That is a hat trick for Palmieri, and it's 6-6. And all I could think was, oh God, it's not over. But it was over pretty quick into overtime. Tampa Bay got the only 2 shots. Johnson scored from Palat and McDonough at 1:16. Your final score is 7-6 in favor of Tampa. Now, if you're a Devils fan, you may very well say, well, our defense broke down, which is true. PK Subban is not known as the best defensive defenseman in the league. And he had some breakdowns tonight. He had a stick breakdown at one point, which led to a goal. But, man, they needed a save. This was just... And I had Doug McLean in my head. Schneider needs to make a save. I just, it was there. Your 3 stars of this game are Palmieri, Bratt, and Andre Palat. The power plays, Tampa went 1 for 1. New Jersey went 1 for 5. McElhinney saved 36 out of 42 shots. Shots don't include times he got hit, knocked down, run over, pushed, kicked, prodded. I don't know what else might have happened while I was flipping around. I assume he probably took, numerous shots and challenged people to fights and whatnot. Corey Schneider saved 16 out of 23, and if you're following along at home, that's a .696 save percentage. They couldn't get a save, even in the overtime. Palat takes the shot and Schneider saved it, kicked it right back out. And again, one thing that I look at with goaltenders is where are they kicking those rebounds? Where are they putting the rebounds? When I watched Demko the other night live, he was putting them all in the corner. It was nice. With Schneider right back out, and Johnson buried it. And you can say, well, New Jersey needs to clear that. True. I can understand, but Schneider needs to cover some pucks too. It is a rough time. Shots in this game were New Jersey's the whole way. 11-9 in the first, 15-7 in the second, and in the third, they outshot them 16-5. 16-5, and 3 of the 5 shots went in the net. So I could totally understand if New Jersey players on the bench were kind of grumbling about how every time the puck went in their zone, it ended up in the net. Tampa had both shots in the overtime to make sure that the shots weren't exactly 2-1. The shots were 43-23 in favor of the New Jersey Devils. Lost. They've got to do something about the goaltending. The time is now. Next up. All right, Edmonton. This was a tremendous answer by Edmonton. So coming off of a loss last night where they went in against Detroit. And I'm going to say this too. I put this jersey on before any of the games started tonight. So I'm not going to take credit, but I'm not going to take credit. So there you go. Double negatives. Look them up. But the Oilers went in, all kidding aside. The Oilers went in tonight and they played a perfect road game against the Columbus Blue Jackets. It really was. This was fantastic. It was textbook. And this is where, for me, the Oilers this year are showing themselves to be different than last year. So they lost 4 out of 5. They were struggling. They couldn't score goals. And tonight they manufactured some goals. The Oilers got the game's first power play. However, the Oilers never set that power play up. They couldn't get it set up. Columbus killed it off, and it looked like, oh, maybe the Oilers are going to have the same problem as last night in Detroit. They got another early power play, and this time it went in. It's James Neal from Draisaitl McDavid at 9 minutes and 11 seconds. Stop me if you've heard that combination before. It's the 7th power play goal of the season for Neal. It's his 11th goal of the season, and he is still on pace for a lot of goals this year. Smith then turned a Boone Jenner chance aside, which was looking to tie it. The Oilers got another power play. Columbus got a very good shorthanded chance during that power play. However, before the period was over, Leon Draisaitl scored from Nugent Hopkins and Chason at 17:02. Draisaitl gets a goal. McDavid's not on the ice because Leon Draisaitl doesn't need McDavid to get points. This is one of those narratives that I've been talking about for over a year now, and it's nice to see that this season it's becoming more and more apparent. Draisaitl's a star on his own. Yes, when you put him and McDavid together, it's magic, but he's a star on his own. So it's 2-0 Oilers after one, second period, early. Jujhar Khaira, who's been pushing for a goal the last few games, finally gets one from Nugent Hopkins and Sam Gagner. Gagner's first point since being called up from the American Hockey League earlier in the week, and good. Nice to see Gagner on the board and Khaira getting a goal, and this is that depth. If these guys can start putting up some points and giving that support, the Oilers are in good shape. However, at 4:56, Leon Draisaitl scored from Kassian, and I put on the board after that. 29's a star all on his own. It was a beautiful give and go by Kassian, and let's give full credit to Kassian. He looks across, he makes the perfect pass, and Draisaitl buries it. At that point, Korpisalo got pulled. It felt like a mercy pull more than Korpisalo playing badly. Merzlikins went in. Columbus then got a power play. On that power play, Werenski scored from Atkinson at 6:55, and even though the Oilers are up 4-1 in the second period, on some level, I was thinking, now they're not going to blow this, right? They're not going to lose a 4-goal lead, right? So it was in the back of my mind. And then Columbus got a 5-on-3, which was almost a full 2 minutes, and Edmonton killed it. The Edmonton Oilers, who last year, yeah, they would have given up 2 power play goals there for sure, they killed it tonight. So it's 4-1 going into the third, and in the third, Mike Smith was great. Absolutely fantastic. Merzlikins was pretty good in that third period too, and he made a good case for getting more starts. He saved every shot that he faced after he went into this game. You can make the argument he deserves more starts. There was a too many men on the ice call on Columbus at 15 minutes into the third period. And it was really a complete game for the Oilers. This was just, they were able to bring it home. So, at the end of this game, the Oilers win at 4-1. Smith saved 23 out of 24. Korpisalo saved 8 out of 12. Merzlikins went in and saved all 19 that he faced. So his save percentage is going to go up. 3 stars, Draisaitl, Nugent Hopkins, and the real deal, James Neal with his 11th goal of the season. Power plays, the Oilers go 1 for 5. Columbus went 1 for 3. So, pretty good night for the Oilers. They outshot Columbus in the first 9-5. Columbus outshot them 12-10 in the second. And in the third, the Oilers, they put the hammer down. They outshot them 12-7. So this is why when people say, don't worry about it. In the third, yeah, they allowed a bunch of shots, but they had a lead. No, I always respect when a team with a lead in the third period takes the game to the other team and goes, no, we're going to keep playing the same way. We're not going to sit back. So the Oilers didn't sit back tonight, and they get themselves the win. So they maintained first place in their division, despite the losing streak they had coming into this. Well, losing 4 out of 5, so it's not really a streak, it's a slump. Anyways, either way, that slump was broken tonight. Moving on. Minnesota. Minnesota went into St. Louis tonight. This might be the best game I've seen Minnesota play in weeks. And I don't know that you can take moral victories and say, that's a big win for us on the moral victory front. But they played well. It's just they just came up short. There was an early power play for the Wild. They were unable to score on that. Braden Shen then had a really good chance, which was stopped by Devin Dubnyk. The Blues had puck control in their favor for the most part in the parts I was watching. However, 12 minutes in, the Wild had the edge in shots, 8-3. Now, this wouldn't be the first time I've seen a team with a lot of puck control and not generating shots. And it looked like it was going to be a low-scoring game even in that first period. Like, okay, we're going to have one of these games where it's kind of a chess match. Now, in the second period, the Blues got an early power play. They didn't score on it, but they had momentum from it. Sammy Blais then scored from O'Reilly and Pietrangelo at 6:52, so O'Reilly continues his recent hot play. The Wild were pushing for the goal, and as I'm writing it, Minnesota scored. So I put up here, Wild push after goal and score. Zuccarello scored from Stahl and Zucker at 8:43, which is great. Zuccarello and Zucker should combine on goals often, just to drive announcers insane. But that was less than 2 minutes after St. Louis scored, and that's the kind of pushback you want to see from Minnesota. Then there was a goal for the Blues that appeared to be offside, and it was. And there wasn't really much argument from St. Louis that it was an offside goal. And again, this is one of those breaks that the Wild have needed. There was a late power play for the Blues, and the Blues were really pushing for a goal in that last minute of that period. Obviously figuring, you know what, if we can get the Wild down 2-1 going into the third, darn good chance we're going to win it. They didn't get the goal. It was 1-1 going into the third. And I put up there a key period for both teams. For St. Louis, you don't want to lose at home against Minnesota either. You were at 6-3-3 coming into tonight. And you're flirting with, a record that people would look at and go, well, they've won less than half their games. It is Pietrangelo scoring from Perron and Gunnarsson at 139. Fantastic pass by Perron, and that would prove to be the winner. So St. Louis gets up 2-1. Binnington had a really solid third period, and the defense was really, really good too for the Blues as the game wound down. So the shots that Binnington got, there weren't rebounds, and they weren't, for the most part, really prime scoring opportunities. Some good shots, but the Blues were keeping the Wild to the outside often. And the late stops by Binnington were really noteworthy. The Wild took a power play with 1 minute left, and then by controlling the puck, they managed to get a power play at 19:47, which made it a 6-on-4, but they were unable to score on it. They were around the net, they were buzzing, but they were unable to get a goal. Your final score is 2-1 for St. Louis. So again, St. Louis wins, Minnesota loses. That's what was expected this morning. But Minnesota came out of this. It was a pretty good game. Dubnyk saved 24 out of 26. Binnington saved 35 out of 36. Your three stars are Binnington, Pietrangelo, and Perron. Power plays, both teams went 0 for 3 on the power play. Shots, Minnesota outshot St. Louis 12-7 in the first. St. Louis outshot Minnesota 13-12 in the second. Minnesota outshoots the Blues 12-6 in the third. Final shots, 36 for Minnesota, 26 for St. Louis. And if you're keeping track at home, it's another loss for Minnesota. They're now 1-8 on the road. But this game felt a little different, and we'll see if, like with Detroit pulling out of their losing streak with the win over Edmonton last night, we'll see if this helps catapult Minnesota to better results in future games, because they got into some good habits tonight. It was a good game. They play this game against other teams. They will get victories. So we'll see. Next up, Florida. Well, the Panthers, who at times in this game looked kind of like it was the end of a road trip and they wanted it to be over, at other points, they were awake. This was a much better team than the one that was in Vancouver the other night. Or Vancouver was a better team than Colorado. It's up to other people to decide. I'll just leave that out there. And it is noteworthy, because Avs fans mentioned this, the Altitude Network is still not available through 3 different providers in Colorado. So if you wanted to watch it on Altitude, you can't watch it at home. And I do feel bad for Avs fans on this, legit. First minute, the Panthers got a power play. However, they didn't score on it. Then the Avs got a power play shortly thereafter. They didn't score either. Neither team scored on power plays tonight. Nieto scored from Belmar and Calvert at 6:05. So Nieto has, I believe, 3 goals this year, and 2 of them against Florida. So good on him. Sevier, however, scored from Ekblad and Uyghur at 9:59. So Sevier gets on the board. That's his first of the season. And the Panthers were really pressuring late. The Panthers had a really good road period. And then Donskoy scores from McKinnon and Girard at 19:28. So the Avs come out of that period up 2-1. And they're kind of fortunate that's the score. Second period, there was an Avs power play early on. Again, teams didn't score on the power play. The Avs had a lot of pressure in that first 5 minutes. And I felt like this was Bobrovsky's best game so far as a Florida Panther. And even though he ends up allowing, his save percentage tonight was .900, which isn't hugely great. Like .920, .925 is where we start praising a goaltender. I thought he had a pretty good game. The Panthers did push back at about 12 minutes into that period. They managed to force a third power play in the game thus far, but again, they were unable to score. But there was 7.5 minutes of no shots for the Avalanche. Not only that, the Avalanche in 16 minutes of action had 2 shots on Florida's net. So really, really good defense by Florida, or really lacking offense for the Avalanche, who were missing Rantanen and Landeskog. Third period, the Panthers got an early push. It was a good third period for Grubauer. I thought he played very, very well. There was chance for him very often from the crowd, rightfully so. McKinnon then scored from Cole and Kadri at 7:37, and you could be forgiven for saying this game's over. They're up 3-1. This game's done. And the Avs controlled the puck after that goal, too. They had a lot of pressure in Florida's end after he got that goal. The Panthers then got a power play, and that's where it turned. Barkov scores from Yandel at 12:04. That is the first goal of the season for Barkov. It is scored on the power play, and it is the weight of the world off his shoulders. I was afraid of the fact Barkov had no goals coming into Vancouver the other night and thinking he's overdue for a goal. He's due for a big night. I'm really hoping it's not against the Canucks, and it wasn't. It was tonight. Grubauer held the fort late versus the Panthers, but once Florida pulled the goalie, there was some sitting back by Colorado, and this is the dangerous sitting back. Huberdeau scores from Ekblad at 18:30. So 26 seconds after the goalie's pulled, Florida scores that tying goal. This game's going to overtime, because Florida loves overtime, almost as much as Columbus, or more than Columbus. I know they both go to overtime a lot. In the overtime, it is Huberdeau from Barkov at 29 seconds. Did not take them long. Again, Barkov finally having that game where he gets that goal. Pretty big game for him and for Florida. Huge comeback victory. Now they get to go home after this extensive road trip and start trying to pile up some victories at home. Bobrovsky, 27 saves on 30 shots. Grubauer, 34 saves on 38 shots. Your 3 stars are Huberdeau, McKinnon, and Grubauer. I would have given Barkov the second star instead of McKinnon, but I understand why McKinnon got that star. He's off to a pretty good start on the season. And with a goal and an assist, he continues to put up points at a pretty good rate. As I said, power plays, 0 for 4 for Florida, 0 for 2 for Colorado. The shots favored the Panthers in the first, 12-7. 17-11 Colorado in the second. 14-6 in favor of Florida in the third. They got the only shot of the overtime. That's the one that mattered. Final shots, 38-30 in favor of the Panthers, and a very surprising result, and a nice gutsy win for the Florida Panthers. That being said, I now got to change boards. All right, Habs fans. Your team is doing something odd this year. And I'm wondering, is there something that the coach is telling the players? Is this something the players are doing? The Habs are very good in the first minute of periods. We saw that tonight against Arizona. So going into this game, it's like, all right, it's a goalie duel. It's going to be Ranta. It's going to be Price. It's going to be a really low scoring. 22 seconds in, Gallagher silences that noise with a goal from Weber and Tatar. And nice goal. Good job. And again, you're like, okay, so they've started scoring goals in the first minute a lot. So, and again, it didn't just happen once in this game. So I think there's something to that. And I'm wondering if Montreal's got some kind of a strategy in mind or what's going on here. Arizona got the next 6 shots after that goal. But there was kind of a quiet to the crowd after that goal. Like, wait, what's happening here? The Habs got a power play after they got that. During that power play, they got some shots. And then after they had some control. Ranta was really sharp after that first goal. Really sharp the rest of the period. The Coyotes got a power play at the halfway mark. They didn't score on the power play tonight. They didn't look overly dangerous. And when they got their shots, Carey Price stood tall and stopped everything in that first period. So we go into the second. 24 seconds into the second period, Weber scores from Mete and Deno. Yeah. And I put up on the board, Habs love early goals. So it's 2-0 Montreal. Now the bothersome part because I watched the Arizona feed. I always watch the Arizona feed because Tyson Nash is interesting to listen to. And the bothersome part for Nash was that the Coyotes had played really, really well, and yet they were down 2-0. And that is frustrating for a team when you're playing better And we'll get to that with this game too, where you're out playing another team and yet you're down. The Coyotes got an early power play. Derek Stepan had a really nice opportunity, which was denied by Carey Price. The Habs got a power play 11 minutes in, but the Coyotes killed that off and they got their last power play of the game shortly thereafter. So neither power play was great tonight. They both went scoreless, but Montreal's up 2-0 after 2. Now, Montreal can't do it again, can they? No, they didn't score in the first minute. They scored at 1 minute and 17 seconds. It's Cousins from Suzuki. Suzuki gets another point. Cousins is an offensive force for Montreal because it's Bizarro World, and that's how things work. 3-0 Montreal, and that's 3 early strikes for Montreal. I maybe it's a coincidence, but to me it says that Claude Julien has a plan going into each period, or we're in football land and there's an offensive coordinator who's got a play drawn up, and it's like just your quick strike. Used to be the 49ers had a screen pass that nobody could defend no matter what. You've had quarterbacks had the long bomb. It's like Montreal has a play like that where they go, okay, this is, and it just goes in. We'll see if that continues to be a thing with Montreal over the next few games, or if this was just for tonight and a couple of games we've seen recently. Chychrun then scored from Goligoski and Kessel at 4:47. That was really key. Keeps them in it. Ranta was then tested as the Habs pushed, so Montreal continued to push back. And then Drouin put the nail in the coffin from Armia and Sherratt at 11:03. And that's your final, 4-1 Montreal. They go into Arizona, a team that is off to a really hot start, and they put an end to that. They beat them 4-1. Carey Price saved 33 out of 34. Ranta saved 32 out of 36. I don't think his save percentage shows how well he played. Weber, Gallagher, and Chychrun are your 3 stars in this game. Power plays, Montreal went 0 for 2. Arizona 0 for 3. Your shots, 14-13 in favor of Arizona in the first. 10-9 Montreal in the second. 13-11 Montreal in the third. Final shots, 36-34 in favor of Montreal. I don't know that I would have given Chychrun a star. I would have given Price the 3rd star, but that's me. I am favorable to goalies getting stars since they keep all those darn black pucks out of the net. All those little rubberized, vulcanized, frozen things, they keep them out of the net pretty good. And he saved 33 of those tonight out of 34. That's a safe percentage of a lot. So, but that's how this works sometimes. The 3 stars are just, it's all subjective, right? So, that's fine. All right, last game of the night, and this was stressful for a Canuck fan. And again, keep in mind, the last 3 games of the night, I was really riveted by the baseball action. So I was doing my best to follow hockey, and then commercials going back to baseball, because, man, that was one heck of a Game 7, and I understand that the ratings were really low, because it's Houston and Washington. Of course the ratings are low. If it had been the Yankees and the Dodgers, it would have been much higher. But, man, some people missed some great baseball. All right, Jeff Carter scored from Kopitar and Martinez at 3:53 in this game. That was on the first shot for the Kings after Vancouver had control, and that would be a thing tonight. That's 900 points for Anze Kopitar. He's had an amazing career, but we can see with the Kings tonight, this is a team that's in disarray, and some of the high price tags that they've got on these players will be problematic as soon as this offseason. Clifford and Ferland then had a fight. Michael Ferland's first fight as a member of the Canucks, his 20th in his career apparently. And he held his own with Clifford. Clifford's a tough guy. The Kings got the first power play of the game. The Canucks killed that power play. The only thing I don't have on this board is the power plays, but yeah, there was a lot of power play goals, so I don't really need to show the percentages. There was a late power play for the Canucks, and they scored. Brock Besser scores from Pettersson and Hughes at 17:39, and then Tanner Pearson forced Doughty to take a penalty. There were a lot of forced penalties tonight. Trevor Lewis was very good at drawing penalties for LA tonight. I think he drew 3. The problem is he also took one, so that means he forced the Canucks to take 3 penalties on 3 occasions, but he also took one himself later in the game. Horvat scored on that next power play from Hughes and Pettersson at 19:34. So Bo Horvat continues his hot streak. And the Kings took a penalty at the end of the first period. So, yeah, start of the second, the Canucks were on a power play. They didn't score on that one. Edler got hurt at 4 minutes and 13 seconds. He would stay in the game, but he was kind of laboring a bit. So hopefully it's nothing that after the game's going to flare up or anything. The Canucks were ahead 9-2 in periods in the shots in the second period at one point. That became like 10-2. It was ridiculous. It did even out before the end of the period somewhat, but yeah, the Canucks were really ahead. They were playing really well, and then the Kings got a power play and they scored on it. It's Kempe from Kopitar and Doughty at 10:06. That's point number 901 for Anze Kopitar. He had a very good night. He did. He had a very good night. The Kings got another power play shortly after that, and they hit the post while they had that going. And that was where I'm like, you know what? This isn't funny. The Canucks had been outplaying the Kings so badly, and the fact this game was tied kind of drove me nuts. However, Besser would score from Pettersson at 15-17. Brock played really well tonight. Pettersson played pretty well too. The Canucks got a power play late in that period. It would straddle between the second and the third period. And in the third, Besser would score his hat-trick goal from Horvat and Miller at 55 seconds. Some hats hit the ice. Not as many as it would have been if it was in Vancouver, but that's perfectly fine. Besser with 3 goals. Horvat with a goal and an assist. And Pettersson already had 3 helpers to that point in the night. But the Canucks are only up 4-2. And it feels like the game should have been more one-sided than that. And all of the Canucks goals were on the power play to that point. Other than Besser's. That's right. 3 goals from the power play and then Besser's. The Kings got a power play shortly after that. And then Edler took another one. So Edler took 2 penalties in the third period. I've been very, very much praising Edler. Not a huge fan of some of his work tonight. Myers took a penalty in that third period too. So that was the top 2 on the defense. Wake it up a little bit here, guys. Don't do that against the Ducks. But things worked out pretty well. The Kings didn't score on those power plays. Quick then robbed Brandon Sutter. Sutter, beautiful play by Sutter, and Quick made his best save of the night. I didn't think Jonathan Quick was the problem tonight, to be honest. The Kings got another power play. They didn't score on that one either. And then the Kings took a penalty at 15 minutes and 28 seconds. It took 18 seconds for the Canucks to score. Now, one thing that John Garrett pointed out on this goal was that Pettersson gets the goal. And the Kings just kind of sat back and watched him tee it up. They gave him about 3 seconds to measure where he was and where the corners were and just roof it. And he did. That was assisted by Besser and Hughes. So Besser had an assist to go with his hat trick. Quinn Hughes had his 3rd assist of the game. That's the first time in his career he's had 3 points. I haven't been mentioning him in the not Norris. He wouldn't get mentioned for the Norris. I mean the Calder Trophy. But he should get some mention for the Calder right now because he's putting up a lot of points. Go look it up. 15 minutes and 46 seconds was the time of that goal, and I'm like, okay, good. I can just relax until Carter. Jeff Carter scored his 2nd of the game from Kopitar. That's point number 902 for Kopitar. And Doughty gets another assist as well. So Doughty had a couple of helpers tonight. That was at 18:49. It was more aggravating than anything that changed things. They didn't try to pull the goalie after that. Todd McClellan probably looking at the score and going, nah, we're not going to score 2 in 49 seconds or a minute. It's not going to happen. So he didn't try it. Your 3 stars in this game were Besser, Pettersson, and Hughes. You could make an argument you could have had 3 stars from both teams in this game because of Kopitar, Doughty, and Carter. Markstrom saved 21 out of 24. I thought he played better than his save percentage tonight as well. And Quick saved 44 out of 49. Definitely better than his save percentage tonight. The fact his save percentage isn't 900, that's not on Quick. That's on the guys in front of him. And just the penalty kill. Shots favored the Canucks the whole way. 15-8 in the first, 21-7 in the second. I said they evened out, not by much. 13-9 in the third. Final shots 49-24 in favor of the Canucks. This was a really, really good road game for the Canucks. The Valley of Death that was California. This was the first game in 3. They won it. Now they get to go to Anaheim on Friday, and then they've got Saturday in San Jose. And then the California trip is over. They do 2 California trips this year. we'll see if they can have a good record. So far, so good. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And again, congratulations to the Nationals. Nice game. And again, I know it's baseball, but still, that was a heck of a game. What a comeback! Should they have left the starter in longer for Houston? Because Greinke was pitching pretty well. He only allowed, what, 2 hits? Anyway, all right. I think it was 2 base runners. I think it was 1 hit, 2 hits. It wasn't much. And as soon as he was out, the Nationals went, thanks, and they won. There you go. Thanks for your support. Hit like and subscribe. I'll talk to you again soon, which means tomorrow morning.